Yeah, let me start by asking you about your stay at the university. You know, how did you get to be? How did you come here? How did you come to the university? And you know,
Well, okay. Well, originally, I graduated from Chicago Teachers College,
oh, you did. Okay.
which is the predecessor.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and and it was interesting that you were talking about Eugene Perkins,
Uh huh.
because he was one of my teachers.
At CTC.
And yeah, no, not at CTC. When I got my master's, I got it from, what did they call that? I guess they called it Chicago State University.
Okay.
Okay, and he was one of few black instructors there.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, I can do this.
Okay. And so you followed in his footsteps.
Yeah, I actually did.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. Does he know that?
No, he doesn't. As a matter of fact, when I was talking to him Sunday, he didn't even know that I was teaching there. I said, we've been teaching in the same department for 2 or 3 years, because he just came back. He went away.
Uh-huh.
And he said, I didn't know you were over there. I said, yes, we're in the same department. Because his nameplate is on his mailbox and stuff.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Because I think he had asked me maybe about 10 years ago. He's been away for a long, long time.
Okay.
And he said, well, why don't you all get me to come back? And evidently he had forgotten that when I talked to him Sunday.
Okay.
And so finally, he has come back.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
In the meantime, I think he's been there about 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
But he was an inspiration to me to come there, and I wanted to be there to give back something that's, given a great deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm deeply indebted to that institution.
Okay.
Um,
In what sense? I mean, just because of the academic credentials that they gave you, or the inspiration?
Inspiration, and all that. When I first started, I didn't have to pay tuition or anything,
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was on a scholarship.
Okay.
And they've given me, if just about everything that I have, I could trace back to them.
To them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it gave me my career.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so I said, somewhere around 1978, I was teaching up at Northern then, and I said, well, I came over there, and I said, well, I'm going to help some of the students out.
Uh-huh.
So he said, well, why don't you tutor some of them? And I did. I did that for a semester, and then, see, the chair of the department had also been one of my teachers.
Okay. Who was that?
That was Dr. Green, Jesse Green.
Okay.
Why don't you teach one of these courses? So
Yeah.
So I did. And he said, why don't you teach 2 of these
He's got the inch.
Yeah. So eventually, I signed up, and I took a full-time position, but I was also teaching for the public schools, and I was teaching at Northern Illinois University.
You were a busy beaver.
Yeah, I was really busy.
Uh-huh.
And my wife said, why don't you quit one of these jobs?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because what I was doing, I had to be up at Northern 2 times a week.
Okay.
So I would leave I'd leave the high school and drive up there.
Oh, you were teaching high school?
Teaching high school in Chicago,
Uh-huh.
teaching college in DeKalb.
Okay.
And 2 days a week I was teaching at Chicago State.
Yes.
Said something's got to go.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Which high school were you teaching at? Just out of curiosity.
let's see, at that time, I think I was teaching at Crane.
Okay, on the west side.
Yeah, on the west side, because I remember I'd have to drive up 90, and it wasn't great leaving Chicago at 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, Crane.
You've had quite a career, because I know I talked with Rene Boudouin at Newberry. He said you taught there for a while at the elementary school.
Yeah, I taught there for 3 years.
Teaching what, English or?
That was I taught 5th grade.
5th grade, okay.
And it was an English position. Of course, you're familiar with the school, so you know that they start their departmental earlier than most public schools in the city. So so I taught the English stuff in 5th grade, and that was a very interesting experience.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Well, why don't you elaborate on that for a second? I mean, what you said it's an interesting experience. I mean, was it a good experience, a bad experience, or
it was a wonderful experience for me. I had just left the school where I had been for maybe 20 years. And they were in the process. It was Juliet Lowe Upper Grade Center in Inglewood.
Okay.
A place you might want to get out of, but
yeah,
I wouldn't. I was comfortable over there. But they were shutting it down gradually.
Okay.
And Dr. Radford wanted me to come over to her school, which was Newberry, and I came over there. And the interesting thing is that at that time, I don't know what it's like now, but you could probably tell me, there was an interesting mix of ethnic groups.
What year would this have been about?
83 to 87.
Okay, yeah.
83 to 87. Kid, they hadn't closed Cabrini yet. And I think they really haven't even yet closed.
Yeah, I don't know that.
But we had kids from Cabrini, and then we had kids from these, really affluent people. Like one student that I had, her father was the producer at Channel 9.
Okay.
Yeah, stuff like, that kind of stuff. I've told you this story before, but this is where the kids would come up to me and say, "What are you?"
Yes.
They really,
And your response was?
Like what? First of all, I had to figure, what does this question mean?
Yes.
But it wasn't a question that was unfamiliar to them. It was unfamiliar to me.
Yes. But they were talking about racial or ethnic extraction.
That's right.
Is what they're getting at.
That's right.
Because the obvious answer is I'm a man.
Yeah.
But they knew that part.
Yeah. Yeah. I hoped.
Yeah.
But it really threw me, and then I started looking at their backgrounds, and they really wanted a sense of identity.
Yeah.
And I mean, they feel, okay, well, you look like me.
Yeah.
Your background must be like mine.
Yeah.
And let's,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So you've been inspiring students for a long time. Sounds like.
Well,
Well, yeah. I mean, but let's get to CSU again.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I was telling you, I had quit. In fact, at the Newberry experience, I was no longer working at Chicago State.
Okay.
So one day, I took my son over there to get him, and my oldest son, to get him enrolled.
At Newberry?
Yeah, no, at Chicago State.
Oh, so they're older now. Okay.
Yes, many years.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And I got buttonholed by another chairman.
Okay. Who was?
You know what? I'm embarrassed that I can't remember his name.
Okay. Not a problem.
He's since and I should be able to, but I can't remember his name right now. But he buttonholed me, and it was almost the identical situation. He said, he started off with, "Why don't you teach this class?"
Deja vu.
Yeah, because I knew it wasn't going to go over well here. Okay. And I said, okay. All right. So then, by the time I got home, he said, guess what? Why don't you teach two classes?
He didn't even give you the opportunity to teach the one class and think about it.
No, because he already, he knew. I mean, he already knew I'd been over there and everything. But that wasn't it. By the time we had a long telephone conversation, it was time he's writing up the contract. He said, well, at the rate that we're going to be paying you, why don't you just be full time and get all of the benefits?
Yes.
And I said, okay. And that's how that was in 1987. That was when I left Newberry.
Okay.
And went to Washington High School. So then, and you know where Washington is, right over there.
I don't actually.
Yeah, Washington is on Avenue O at about 114th Street.
Oh, so you're talking about east?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
East in Chicago. East, south, and east in Chicago.
South and
okay. Okay.
And about a 20-minute commute, so I could leave the high school.
And be right over here.
Yeah, be right over here. And that's how I got there.
Okay. So what are your impressions of Chicago State? I mean, it's been good to you, but I mean, has it been rewarding? Has it been?
It as I was telling you before, it's been very good to me. I've taken advantage of a lot of things that it's offered me and stuff. And like I said, the reason why they were so easy to convince me to do it is because I was willing to give back. The demographics of the school have changed remarkably from the time that it was Chicago State, because basically, by the way, my mother went there.
CTC?
Yeah.
Chicago Teachers College?
Yeah,
okay.
Went to Chicago Teachers College when it was mostly Jewish.
Okay.
Okay.
Immigrants, probably?
I really don't, but I imagine so. Yeah, I imagine so. When I went there, it was mostly Irish.
Interesting.
Okay, and as a matter of fact, one of the big things about it was the first Mayor Daley really supported it, and then I found out, because all his relatives are. They were not only the faculty, not only the students, but the faculty. In fact, Dr. Kelly, I think he just recently died. That was Daley's cousin.
Oh, is that right?
He was chair of the history department.
Okay.
So I mean, that's really why I've been involved with it, because of the things it's given my family, myself personally. Now I see students. It has changed to become predominantly black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I see that, they really need a structured thing, Mm-hmm. In the early days, I saw that they were not, as students, really being given their respect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could count the number of black instructors there on your hands.
Even now?
Then.
Okay.
Now it's much better. You know, I went through a period where when I saw somebody who was black, I said, hey, yeah. But for a long time, and this is an interesting thing, I had an office mate named Brafa,
mm-hmm.
who was from South Africa. And he and I were the only two black people in the department at that time.
Mm-hmm.
No, Kanye's mother. Now, I was there when she came.
Okay.
When Kanye's mother came.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first black woman in the department.
And this is the English department?
This is the English department.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wanted to clarify that because I know you consider yourself to be an historian as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something else I wanted to touch on. Your training, I get the impression that your training is primarily in languages, in English.
No.
It's not.
Actually, my undergraduate degree is in history.
Oh, okay.
With a minor in education. My first master's is history.
Okay.
And the second one is it's really an English degree, but it's how's that degree go? Black Languages and Literature.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So,
yeah,
okay.
It is. That's the reason I never really wanted to teach English because it's painful.
Yeah.
It's a painful task.
Yes.
So I tried to escape from it, but really all my talents were there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's wound up doing that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, let me shift gears for half a second, and talk about the Perspectivists. How do you? I mean, you're one of the founding members of it, aren't you?
Yes.
How did that come into being?
Well, it's okay. Somewhere in the late. I'm gonna get these. I can't really get. One day I'm gonna write this. I had said that I wasn't going to do it, and in fact, I had delegated the task of writing the history of the Perspectivists to one of the other founding members.
Okay.
All of them, as you know, have died.
Yes, you're the last one.
So, but at any rate, there were four. They used to meet at Lerone Bennett's house.
Okay. Just for the record, who were the founding members?
The founding members were Henry Blakely, Elliot Stewart, Frank Parker, and Rocky Messiah, Henry Messiah.
Okay. And you?
Yeah, and me.
Okay. Okay. And how did it come into being? I mean,
like I said, they used to meet at Lerone Bennett's house, who lived across the street from me, incidentally.
Okay.
And I'd see them out there. They'd be on the lawn,
Okay.
You know, have you ever been to Princeton Park?
I have not.
Okay, it's a private housing project.
Okay.
Okay, next door to Lerone was the guy who wrote Trumbull Park. I'm trying to think of his name.
The real estate magnate?
No.
Am I thinking of the wrong person?
Yeah. He died many years ago.
Okay.
I'm gonna think of it. Frank London Brown.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. They would have these meetings and they'd be out there arguing all the time. And the four members that I mentioned of the group, they got tired of all that. And they said, we want to get down to serious business. We want to have guidelines about, you know, what we're discussing at these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to break away.
Okay.
And when they did, I happened to be dating Frank Parker's daughter at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They said, well, you know, are you interested? I said, yeah, well,
Let me interrupt you just for half a second. What was this meeting originally about? Were they writers? Because the Perspectivists now are a collective of writers.
You mean the
meeting
that they broke away from?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of them were writers. Gwendolyn Brooks, it's several, you know, all of them were, you know, Lerone Bennett was editor of the,
right.
you know.
Every
okay,
magazine.
yeah, and they were all writers.
And they were about the business of doing what the Perspectivists do now, reading material to one another, being a sounding board.
I don't know how their meetings went, because I never went. I would view them from, I remember, while their club was going on, I was a child.
Okay.
Okay, and I'd see them, you know, doing whatever they were doing, but I didn't know what they were doing.
Okay,
you
okay.
know. But by the time they decided not to be doing that anymore,
okay, yeah,
it had evolved into something that the four people that I talked about didn't think was a serious. It was a. Have you ever been to Obasi's meeting?
Yeah, I've been there. I was a member of Obasi.
Oh,
for a while. A short while.
It was like Obasi.
And Obasi, when I was there, and this is like near the end of its existence. Hoyt Fuller was there, and some of his students, and I was among them. We'd essentially do what we do in the Perspectivists. We read material and critique it, but not merely from the viewpoint of just pure writing. It had a black side to it, and so if there was a note in someone's piece that was too white, we'd point that out, because the thrust of Obasi was to write material for black people, and so in addition to it being quality work, it had to be black enough.
Yes. This was the kind of stuff they objected to. Hence the name, Perspectivists. They didn't care what perspective you were coming from.
I see.
That's where the name comes from. They said what we're primarily interested in is looking at how the thing is presented, not necessarily what its political views are.
Yes, that's interesting. That's interesting. And Gwendolyn Brooks apparently came over to the Perspectivist point of view?
No, she never joined the Perspectivist.
Oh, she never did?
No.
I thought
because
she was.
She always was looking for, you know, the black perspective.
Yes.
Okay. And now her husband, Henry, I mean, this is what they argued about all the time.
Okay. So, not only in the club, but at home.
Yeah, all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, she would host our meetings with, you know, I mean, this is what we used to do, as you can probably see from what we're doing now, is every month we go to a different member's home.
Okay.
Okay, and then when we went over to Henry's home, then she was hosting the meeting.
Yes. Even though she disagreed with the viewpoint
yes.
that
she didn't necessarily. But she disagreed with the philosophy of the organization.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because she did believe that things should have a black perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
Not that we didn't. But one of the reasons why it was so hard to get rid of Joffrey was because he I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
But I had argued forcefully because they wanted to get rid of him many times.
When did Joffrey become a member of the group?
I guess about I'm going to say 73.
And the group had been in existence for about how long?
And that was the same year.
Oh, same year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's when the group actually started, in 73.
Okay. And were you recruiting members? I mean, how did he come to find out about it?
No, like we would, like I said, the five of us, we just meet with ourselves.
Okay.
And as you can see, there's no structure to the thing.
Yeah, right.
Okay, when we decided that we were going to put out an anthology, that's when I saw, okay, well, we need somebody who's going to be a treasurer. Because then, people were donating money to the anthology.
Yes.
And they said, okay, we will have a formal structure on paper. They picked me to be president of the thing.
Okay.
Okay. But these were just, this is so that we can put our corporate stuff together. And they did that. I don't think Henry ever took any office, although he was the one that was running the group. But I don't think he actually had a title. And my argument about Joffrey, this is what you all are founded on. That you don't care what he says. Yeah. You care about how he says it.
Yes.
But after he burned the flag on Gwendolyn's piano, that was when Gwendolyn basically kicked us out. And it was very hard on Henry because we couldn't have the meetings at his house anymore. He'd take us to restaurants and all this kind of stuff, trying to avoid going over there. One time we had a meeting at the beach. One time we had a meeting at the park. One time we had the meeting in front of his house on the lawn. And it worked a hardship on him.
What is Joffrey's last name? I don't remember.
Stewart.
Joffrey Stewart, right. And so, when he came into the group, was he as anti-Semitic?
No.
So why were you, what was the objection to having him at that time?
Because he was an anarchist. That's what they're.
Yes.
He was an anarchist, and some people didn't think that he was a poet.
Okay.
And but you've seen his writing. He has always written that way.
Is that right?
Yes, it was always, that little anarchy stuff. That's him. Yeah, but he, in fact, it may have been after most of them died that he went into this anti-Semitic bag. It was, you could see it. You could see the progression to it. Okay. But he was they considered him anti-American. And, I think Gwen, at the time that he was doing this, Gwen was the Librarian of Congress.
Yeah.
He's doing crap like that, And she said, oh, nah, not again. And,
not to mention that he could have burned the house down.
Or
at least damaged the piano.
Yeah.
Maybe he did.
Yeah, maybe he did. It was just, I mean, you know him, so he didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So over the years, the Perspectivist has, I guess, had lots of members come and go.
Yeah.
And but the general thrust of the organization has been about the same.
Yeah, except like you may hear me criticize. Like when I see people talking more about the ideas presented in the works instead of the work, you might hear me say something about that.
Yeah. Okay. Because
because a lot of people don't really know. Only. Well, I guess I'm the only one left who knows what they were really doing.
Yeah.
But they wanted to see themselves as perfectionists in art. I know if you with Obasi at the time, it's art for art's sake and arts for ours sake and all that controversy going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they were always art for art's sake.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I wrestle with that notion myself a lot, because I'm coming around more to the view that art for art's sake is nice. I mean, it's nice to see beautiful paintings that are just simply beautiful. But art is a very powerful tool. And in some instances, it seems like the power of the tool is wasted if you're merely using it to present it because it can be presented. It for itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't know, we were having this discussion with one of Patrice's friends abroad. He was saying poetry isn't political. Well, let's face it. All poetry is political.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, but if that is your, if you're more interested in the politics of it than in the beauty of it, then I'm not for that.
Okay. What about if you do both? I mean,
well, you should do both.
Yeah.
And I think that's the position that Gwen finally came. By the way, I don't want to leave this without saying she did have his back.
Okay.
Without Joffrey.
How did that happen? I mean, because Joffrey was there when I was there.
He just couldn't come.
That was the
compromise. Couldn't come to her house.
So it would rotate from member to member, but when it got to Gwendolyn Brooks' house, Joffrey was not invited.
That's right.
Okay.
That's one of the compromises I offered to you.
Yeah. I know.
But you were right. I mean, because he had absolutely become just. That day that he was baiting Judith, that just wasn't necessary.
Yeah. I mean, Judith has some issues too.
Yes, she does indeed. I saw them Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't there for that.
Yeah. She and Joel. I don't know what they were talking about. But it was deep seated, whatever.
Do they know each other outside of the Perspectivists?
Yeah, evidently. I mean, because whatever they were doing, Judith is highly political.
Oh yes, Judith Hochberg. I mean, she's been in politics the lion's share of her life, let alone probably all of her adult life. And when Manny was alive, I mean, Manny's paintings probably had a political bent to them as well. I mean,
she brought him up, and that's what got Joel. I don't know what, because Joel claims, that he has no political motivations, and maybe he does, and
or maybe he's in denial.
Yeah, he is in denial.
Okay,
but he, he clearly didn't, and she touched him off in some way. She also touched Mike off.
Mike Cook.
But that's not hard to do.
Yeah, Mike's got a hair trigger anyway.
He didn't say anything, but I could see how he was looking.
You can see the smoke pouring out of his ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting group, and I think, in fact, it needs to be, the history of the Perspectivists needs to be recorded.
Yeah.
And you should do that. I mean, you got the. I won't say you have the time now because
No,
I don't know that you do.
I don't. You know I don't have the time.
Well, yeah, but I mean, yeah, because.
But I got more time than I had. If and not only that, I have the work. I have the anthology they never published.
Is that right?
I have it in the basement. I carry it around with me. I have several unpublished books of theirs.
Of the individuals?
Of the individuals. What I done, probably the best novel was by Elliot Stewart.
Okay.
It's called Washing No Cold Water. It was a beautiful novel. But he was the first of the group to die. And Henry tried to get control of his stuff, and his wife took it, and we don't.
And it's gone.
Yeah, but I have excerpts of it. Not that
had he published anything else?
I don't know. Like a number of they had worked for the Defender.
Okay. They being
in the 50s and 60s.
No, when you say they had worked for the Defender.
Rocky was the illustrator for the Defender.
Okay.
And this, you can tell how long ago this was. Stewart had a correspondence with who's the Nobel Prize winner? Woman.
Toni Morrison?
Toni Morrison. When she was editor at Random House.
Oh, is that right?
Before she had written a novel.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They would correspond, and she would go over his stuff.
Okay. But it never got past that.
Never got past that. Well, he died. See, and this is one reason why I can't write the history, because I would have to. It would take a lot of research now to go back. I don't remember what year he died. Might have been 87 or something, but I really don't know.
Okay.
So it would take some research now on my part to do it. I could write down, like I'm talking to you now, telling you about things that happened. But to actually document it, I had to go back and
actually do the research.
Yeah.
Yes.
Margaret Burroughs, whenever I see her, she said, "I'm not a member of your group," but Charlie was.
And Charlie was
her husband.
Okay.
And he was the curator of the DuSable Museum.
Okay.
And they founded the museum together, as well as the art thing. They had, I don't know how they inherited those houses. Either they bought them or they inherited them. They had a house on one side that they lived in and turned into the DuSable Museum.
Okay.
You're right. This needs to be. But of course, I think that part of the story is well known anyway. But across the street, they had another house, and it was because she's an artist, So they had all of her art in it. Eugene Perkins' father is a very prominent artist. And his stuff would be, I think his name is Marion Perkins, would be they were collecting that at the same time that they were collecting artifacts from anywhere that they could get them.
Okay.
Because the DuSable Museum really had very little to do with DuSable.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of history in it.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, that was Charlie's dream, but he was also a very good poet.
Okay.
Okay, and he wrote a novel. I'm sure she's got this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it might be time to get it, you know.
Yeah.
But he wrote a novel about. He lived in Russia during the Revolution.
During the Russian Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And this would have been when a lot of folks are going to Russia.
Yeah.
From this country. Yeah. One of I'm trying to think of the opera singer's name. The brother. It's from there. He was oh.
I think I know who you're talking about, but I don't.
Then say the name.
I don't consider him an opera singer.
Well, but he is. He was.
He was, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the name?
I'm trying to think of it myself.
Yeah.
Baritone?
Huh?
You talking about baritone?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I can't. Okay.
It doesn't matter. It'll come to me. But he was a singer. He was a performer.
Yeah.
He was a lawyer.
Yeah. Actor.
And he went to Russia with a number of people.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one day Margaret took me down to the Russians came here. They were having this Russian American Day and stuff. It's interesting because my wife said, "What are you doing?" You know, she wanted to take me to Cuba too.
Okay.
Back in the time before that was not fashionable. Anyway, she took me to this thing. It was in Paul Robeson.
Paul Robeson, that's what.
Okay.
Yes.
They had a Robeson Day, and the Russians came here.
Okay.
They were down in this hotel downtown, and she said, "Yeah, well, come on, let's go." Okay, so we went. I said, "What have you done?" For weeks, I looked around to see if the FBI was bugging me or whatever. Because they had after the event, they had an after party, and everybody in there was speaking Russian. You know.
Interesting.
Yeah, very. Oh yeah, she was interested in getting me into a lot of trouble. Because I guess it was in the late '70s. She said, "Come on, let's go to Cuba." Mm-hmm. And really, she goes there. She goes there maybe once every 2 years.
Even now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it can be done. I mean,
yeah, it can. I know it can be done, and it could have been done then.
Yes.
I said, I don't think I'm going to go to all that trouble to get on your list. You know.
Yes.
I said, I don't know who's listening on this telephone. Anyway, yeah. But not too long ago, maybe 5 years ago, she wanted me to go with her again. And I said, why are you always interested in taking me to these places?
That's high praise, man.
Yeah, well,
maybe not high praise, praise.
Charlie. Well, I mean, Charlie was. Let's just say he was a Bolshevik. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they would get into some really heated discussion. I mean, it's funny how you can say something that you think is innocent, and it would really trip the thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they had arguments where, I mean, these are two communist factions, okay, Mensheviks and Bolsheviks, and they're in the same house, which they were. They'd have these fights. What are you all fighting? You all doing the same? Oh no! One old guy wanted to beat me up
because
inadvertently I had said that. You know, I mean, what's the argument?
Yeah. Not knowing the argument is grounds to get your butt kicked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting.
But anyway, Charlie was the member of the group, and Margaret really was. Because, I mean, just like with Gwendolyn, when he'd have it over there, she was really hosting the thing.
Okay. And she would participate?
Oh, yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah. And unlike Gwendolyn, she would come to meetings.
Ah, okay.
You know.
Okay.
But she and Gwendolyn had a relationship that was very strange, too. And so I think in later years, since Gwendolyn said she wasn't a member, Margaret would say neither was I. Well, that's how I met Tumbleweed. Because, see, she was Margaret's little friend.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wait, you're tossing out some things here. When you say that Margaret and Gwendolyn had a strange relationship, I mean, what do you mean by that?
I don't know if I want to go into that.
Okay.
That involves Gwendolyn's husband. And it's
okay. No, I understand. Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize that was the kind of area that we were getting into. Okay. And that means that subject is probably off limits with regard to Tumbleweed as well. I'm asking. Because you said that Tumbleweed was...
No, well, Tumbleweed was just, she was Margaret and Charlie's friend. I'm just by way of saying how Tumbleweed got in the group.
Okay.
Yeah. And
okay.
Tumbleweed...
And so they invited her in because she was a poet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she stayed.
Okay. Yeah. What was her name? Tumbleweed.
Marion.
Hayes, was it?
No.
Who am I thinking about?
She had her. Let's see. I think she kept her. Oh, Marion Beach.
That's right.
That was her name.
Yes.
But she was also married to a prominent artist.
Do you remember his name?
Yes. I mean, I couldn't tell you right now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I do remember his name.
Yeah.
And that's probably how she met Margaret.
Yeah, because that whole artist community thing.
Let's see. I can't think of his name offhand.
But it's not important. I just,
His name was Beach. Because that's what she called him Beach.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't know what Marion... Oh, yeah, Hummins. Her maiden name was Hummins.
Was
Hummins.
Hummins? Okay.
I think I'm right about that. I know.
Yeah, you're a wealth of information about black culture in Chicago and the South Side. I mean, because that's the information you're giving me now. This is valuable stuff. This is very valuable stuff.
Thank you for saying so. I wish I had it better organized.
Well, but still, I mean, I'm saying that to say organized.
And don't forget, I am a historian, so when I see things, I filter them through a historian's.
But that's probably a good thing. That's probably a good thing. And so, other members of the group. I mean, there's Patrice, Paris. When did they come into it? Do you recall?
Paris came in. Now I would say very early on, about the 80s actually.
Okay.
And he would come in intermittently. You know how Paris is.
Yeah, he comes in.
And he would come and. He's always been good,
Yeah.
And he'd do that, but he's always been okay. Well, I'm tired of that now.
Yeah. Has he always been as earthy in his writing as he is now?
Not as earthy, no, but authentic. Yeah, it was even he. As a matter of fact, I don't know. You probably heard him read that Christmas tale.
Christmas Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That derived from a story that he wrote in the 80s.
Earlier on, okay.
Yeah. But he would never have called it that.
Then. Yes.
Yeah.
It's strange how you mature as an artist.
Yeah.
And your style and your the boundaries that you set for yourself at one point in your career move either in or out.
Yeah.
And it affects your style. It affects everything, actually.
Yeah. His style is basically the same, but you know, I think he's trying to figure out what can I do to make this stuff sell.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And I guess it gets to be kind of frustrating for him.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody wants their work to be recognized. Nobody wants to die an unrecognized artist.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And when you start getting up into your 50s and 60s and 70s, and you're still just dealing with chapbooks that you're peddling yourself, that kind of thing, you begin to wonder, you know, have I wasted my life? I mean, because I know me personally, when I began writing, you know, 1,000 years ago, I thought I was going to change the world.
Mm-hmm. We all do that.
Yeah, we all think that.
Yeah.
Now that I'm in my 60s, it is satisfying to know that I can write, but it's not satisfying to know that nobody reads it. You see what I'm saying? And
people should read what you write. And you know, they should read what you write.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
that.
But
really.
Well, I thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. But the thing is that as an artist, you have to be prepared to. You have to understand that just because you write stuff, and it might be good stuff, it might be exceptional stuff, that doesn't mean somebody's going to read it.
That's true.
And that's the conundrum that every artist finds himself in. Because when you begin to think about, can I get people to read what I write, you then begin to ponder the notion of, maybe I ought to change what I write. And when you do that, now you're no longer being honest with yourself as an artist. And that's when it becomes dangerous, in my view.
I think you're right.
And so, I mean, over the years, I mean, I've heard of lots of artists that have, you know, been insurance salesmen or you know, clerks in stores, just so they could write what they wanted to write.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of disturbs me that Paris Smith, who I think is an excellent writer, is thinking more about sales than about his writing.
Yeah.
Because I think he's a wonderful writer. I think he's an exceptional writer.
Yeah. I do too.
I think the quality of his work ebbs and flows, as does the quality of all our work.
Mm.
But when Paris is on, he is on.
That's right.
He is on. And I would hate to see him change that in order to make it more marketable. You know, I mean, yeah, it's an issue.
It is. It's a big issue.
It's an issue.
It's a big issue. And one of the problems with Perry is he's multi-talented, because he's a pretty good musician too.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, you know, I mean, I really wouldn't know, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
writing I would know.
Yeah.
But, you know, he wanted to make that commercial too, you
Yeah.
know, and...
But let's get back to you though. I mean, when did you write much stuff when you first came to the Perspective? I mean, you're a decent writer now. Have you always been?
Well, that's hard to say. Well, let me put it this way. The stuff Elliot Stewart said of my stuff, it's competent.
It's more than competent. It's more than
well,
competent.
that's what he said.
Uh-huh.
And he is an artist that I respect. And so I don't know. I mean, he believed it was competent, but it's somewhat like what Warren said, if you think about it. I don't think either one of them find what I do inspiring.
Yes. Oren Fraser. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a function of the audience. I mean, not all audiences find all artists' work inspiring.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I mean, yeah, and that's a very touchy subject to tell you the truth. I find some of your work inspiring.
Do you?
Yeah, the DuSable stuff.
Really? That's interesting.
But the other stuff I don't.
Okay.
But I mean, we've had this discussion before. But I think that I think you try to edit your work in advance too much, and that's hard to not do. To tell you the truth, I mean that's one of the things that my wife does. She's a writer, although she has decided to give up writing, I think, because she wants everything that she commits to paper to be perfect. And it can't be.
That's true.
And I think that's so that when she's writing, as she's writing, she's contemplating how it's going to look once it's been put out there.
Hey, that's a big concern of mine.
Yeah, I know, and that was what I was going to say to you. That's the problem, in my view, with the current piece that you're working on. You're doing too much pre-editing, but that's I don't want to talk about that because I want to talk more about I want you to do more talking. But the truth is, maybe we've touched on everything. We've touched on Chicago State and Perspectivists. I guess the last thing that I'd like to touch on is maybe two things. Where do you think you want your career, life, thing to go from here? And how would you like for it to be remembered?
Well, you know, I've been a teacher for 45 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and maybe one of the reasons why I'm not all as enthusiastic as I once was about my writing is that I found my teaching career to be very inspiring.
Okay.
To me.
Okay.
Very satisfying. As a matter of fact, you know, I'm spending my summer vacation designing another course. The course is basically writing the research paper.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm there's a question that I have, and it's not going to come out right, but it's like, what's wrong with black people?
A lot of folks ask that. It's usually phrased as, what's wrong with us?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, you know, I've been trying to put a finger on that, and so I've got this list of books that I'm reading. You're a little bit familiar with Thomas Sowell.
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
Maybe
merely a little bit.
More. Okay, did you read his first book?
No, I've read nothing about him. The only thing I know about him is what you and Warren have discussed.
Yeah.
Over the at the meetings.
Yeah. Okay, and Warren might be right, but he can't. Soul can't be dismissed.
Okay.
Okay. But he thinks he has the answer to the question.
To it.
His answer is not flattering.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, you might not want to put it on.
Yeah. Right. I mean, he thinks that black people are. Well, he agrees with most conservatives that it's their own fault.
Okay.
Okay. But there's a guy named Dr. Charles Anderson.
Okay.
Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay. He's got a counter view. And he takes a lot of Soul's research, and he's looking and he's saying, this is historical. And it's something that they did to us intentionally to make us not be able to function. And I think the answer lies somewhere in between.
In the middle. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so in this particular course, I'm going to have my students looking at that.
Okay.
And see if they can, I'm teaching them how to write, but, how do you reconcile two very opposing views and come up with your own?
Yeah.
And that sounds communistic because that is dialectical. Okay. but then I'm doing that. I was reading Gaston's autobiography last month, and he had put together his millions in Alabama with his own stuff. What is it that makes somebody like A.J. Gaston
successful? Given he came from the same background the rest of us came from.
Exactly. So I figure, now my thing is we can bottle it. I was only, I was downstairs when you called. I was at my theater looking at Michael Jackson's funeral when you called me. Michael Jackson was a tremendous businessman. Everybody talks about his singing, his dancing, his art.
But he has some business savvy as well to go with
quite
that.
A bit of, more than we're going to find out more and more as time. But Magic Johnson touched on it at the funeral. He was talking, and he was surprised that Michael liked fried chicken. He came.
Who doesn't like fried chicken?
Yeah. Well, it was funny. He said Michael invited me over to his. He wanted Magic to be in one of these videos, and he said, "Well, what would you like to eat?" And Magic said, "Well, I would like some grilled chicken." And so Michael instructed the cook to grill him some chicken. And then when he brought it in, he brought Magic a plate of grilled chicken, and he brought Michael a bucket of Kentucky
fried chicken.
A fried chicken. Yeah. Kentucky fried chicken.
Yes.
Okay, and that just was that blew Magic's mind. He said, maybe I got a commonality with this guy. But in the same speech, he touched on, what a businessman he was. And something that I had never thought about before, because when you think about it, I don't know whether this occurred to you or not. But Magic was saying that Michael made black people acceptable all over the world.
He contributed, in my view.
Yeah.
But not just Michael. James Brown.
Louis Armstrong,
Michael Jordan,
Nat King
Cole. I mean, over the years. But so this is my personal view.
Okay.
Michael put some bricks on top of the bricks that these other people laid, and took it to a whole new level. But I mean, think about Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali, his name was known worldwide when Michael Jackson was a child.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? So yeah, he contributed. There's no question about that.
But when Michael Jackson was a child, he was a star.
I'm talking about when Michael Jackson was a child, not a star. When Michael Jackson was 4 years old. Well, let me think about that.
Yes, do think about it.
Let me think
about that. Because here's something else. I mean, I used to work for Jesse Jackson.
Okay.
And
you did? In what capacity?
I was the host for Black Expo.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's where Michael was discovered. I mean, that's one of the things of discovery for him.
Yeah.
Because Joe came over to Jesse and said, "Okay, I want you to, to take my son. I want him to be on this." Isaac Hayes was in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want you to be on stage with. I want them to be on stage
with you.
Jackson 5.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, he was really gripping, know. And Jesse finally said, "Well, let me hear him,"
Mm-hmm. And the rest is history.
Yeah, and they were a sensation down there.
Mm-hmm.
They were a sensation.
And was this before Motown?
No. No. Yeah, I mean, really discovered. In fact, what they were an introductory group over there at the Tivoli. Was it Tivoli?
Regal, probably.
Regal at the Regal for some group at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think they had already won the thing at the Apollo and stuff. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but they still, they were still a little known.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not a little. It's kind of hard when you talk about him. It's kind of hard to say they were still living in Gary. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they were known, but nowhere near to the degree that they became known.
Right.
And certainly not him personally. They were still
right.
As a group.
In fact, Joe wasn't even talking about him. He was talking about all of them.
Yeah.
Although Berry Gordy said, when you saw Michael, you knew you were looking at a whole different magnitude.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can tell that even now when Jermaine was singing at the funeral.
Yeah.
He hadn't got where Michael got.
No.
He hadn't got where Michael got.
He's a good singer.
He's a good singer. But magic is magic. Michael was magic.
Yeah.
And yeah. That yeah. But anyway, that's I guess I still stand by my comment that he put some major bricks on the wall.
You're quite right. And that's what Sharpton said.
Yeah.
Because they asked Sharpton, Larry King asked him after the thing, "Well, what do you mean Michael did all of this, and this? And what about Martin King? Let's see who else. What about Jackie Robinson?" And Sharpton's comment was exactly what you said. We mortar the thing in place with Michael.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking about, there was some entertainer from Africa mentioned the influence, and I can't think of his name, but he mentioned the influence of James Brown and Michael Jackson on African music.
Yeah. I think I know who you're talking about. I mean, he and his wife came here during the 70s.
Yeah.
And he's still doing stuff.
Yeah, he's still doing stuff.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But so I mean, and the acceptance of black people around the world is being even more solidified. I mean, not with just Michael Jordan, but there's the golfer. What's his name?
Yeah.
And Obama.
Sharpton said he made the way open for them.
That's right.
And that's what Magic was saying.
That's
Magic
right.
said. Kobe was up there with him too. Said,
I saw them on the stage.
Yeah, you saw that.
I didn't see the whole thing.
Because of Michael, we can sell our shirts.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
You start looking at it, Yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm doing with this course that I'm gonna teach next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Finding what are the things that we can put together to. I think we need economic independence.
Yeah, that's You've actually touched on a couple of things. Some people would argue that integration might have been the worst thing that could have happened to black Africans in America, because before integration we had an economic infrastructure, insurance companies, banks. All kinds of things that now are just gone. But you touched on something that when you say, well, I guess it's this writer that you were quoting, that we were made to think that we couldn't do things and that it was deliberate. Is it just?
And more important, made other people think we couldn't do things.
Yeah. How do you think that was done?
He's got all sorts of little theories, And his name's Anderson, and one of his big points is what you just said. Integration was the destroyer.
Okay.
Okay, and all the energy that went into trying to integrate.
Yeah.
Okay. Destroyed the community. People live out here and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and don't spend their money in the community. That's one of his big things. Now, what was your question?
Well, the question was, how did it come to pass? You said it was deliberate, that we were made to think what we think, or think the way we think. How does he think that was done?
He's a historian. He goes all the way back to. He starts with the Arabs.
When?
Okay.
Starts with the Arabs. When? Do you remember?
Before Muhammad.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Yes, Okay, he said. Okay, after Muhammad, he said they tried to convert Africa, but still kept them enslaved, and by doing so had to.
That must be the train going over that viaduct that I went under.
That's our nemesis.
Yeah.
It used to go by here twice a day.
Okay.
This Canadian company bought them, and they were. Fortunately, there's only one track out there.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You probably saw it on the news where they had that wreck up north. It's that train.
Oh, okay.
And it was probably sabotaged because people hate it.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But getting back to the Arabs and black folks, the truth of the matter is that I want to know his view, because my view is that to some extent there's still an issue for black folks. And back in the day when black folks in America were taking these Arabic names, Muhammad Ali, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it was very popular then. But as Chancellor Williams pointed out in his book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, he also goes back to the Arabs and says that they're no friend of black folks. They're no friend of black folks. never have been. Is this what Anderson is saying?
Anderson quotes Chancellor, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Okay. He says flatly they were the largest exporter of slaves in history.
And they were black slaves.
Of black slaves. Of any slaves.
Of any slaves.
Of black slaves, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I'm reading the chapter now, I haven't finished it yet, where he explains why black people, because, as everybody knows, everybody's been enslaved.
Yeah.
But why is it that people singled out black people to be enslaved? And one of the things that he comes up with, and I guess this goes along with the Arab, and it seems to be true in all of it, they let them do it to them.
There's that. Yeah. Yeah. Does he give an explanation as to, an opinion as to why?
When you think about it, the reasons are evident. And in fact, he does. He says the white people can't explain why don't black people want to exploit everybody like we do. He said it's incomprehensible to him. He's saying it's human nature to want to exploit somebody else. And
is he white or black?
Anderson?
Yeah.
Anderson's black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me put a comma in the conversation at this juncture, and jump over to another issue. During the slave trade, when Africans were being brought to the Americas, black people were a part of that.
Yeah.
It's not like white people were going into Africa and snatching folks up.
Exactly.
It was black people delivering black people.
And they made a lot. Both he and Soul agree that black middlemen made a huge amount of money and did not want to see the end of the slave trade.
Yes.
They were adamantly against it.
Uh-huh. So when you compare and contrast blacks enslaving blacks with Arabs enslaving blacks, does he even compare and contrast those two?
If he does, I haven't come to that yet. I'm in the middle of his book. And by the way, this is a book that was recommended to me by my son.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, I get a lot of ideas from him about how to teach these courses.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But one of the things, because see, he talks to my students and former students who are always trying to run away from me.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, and I haven't seen this in Anderson's book yet, but my son contends that there was a letter by a guy named Lynch.
Yeah.
Have you heard that about that? Yeah. I had never heard of it. He told me about that the other day.
That's where the term Lynch comes from.
Yes, I know. But is the letter real or a myth?
I don't know that. I have done no research on it, but the anecdotal evidence that has come to me suggests that the letter is real.
Okay.
It suggests that the letter is real. But now, it's all anecdotal.
If there's a real letter like that, then that tells you,
that
was their plan.
Yeah. It would not surprise me to find that it existed and was in fact part of the plan. Because I'm one of these conspiracy theory people anyway. I love conspiracy theories, but I think it goes deeper than that.
I do too. That's why I think the letter, it might be some remnant of that. But I think I think that stuff like that grows over time. Another book that I read this summer was The Hemmings of Monticello.
Okay.
Okay, and this is Jefferson's black family.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't think that he ever intentionally intended to have his house slaves be all this different, but they just were.
Yes.
And so naturally, the people who look like your wife, okay, they can be around me. And this is how he's running his plantation. And basically what it comes down to is, okay, the whiter you are, the closer you can get to the man.
Yeah.
In some cases, very close.
Yeah.
And if you're related to the man, he might even let you run away and get away.
Yes.
And if you're close enough to negotiate with the man, he might set terms or even, writing up your little papers and giving you money so you can set up your little bid.
Yes.
But
it's all based on color.
It's all based on, identification. Now, Anderson says it's all based on color. But one of my, and that's why, as I was telling you before about those kids, you said, what are you? What are you? You see, my contention is there's no such thing as race.
Yes.
Okay. And in this country, there really isn't. Because, did you see Gates' show? His little show where he was tracing his ancestors
back to Africa?
Yeah, and he wound up in Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was tracing them back to Africa, and he winds up in Ireland.
Well, yeah, that's part of. This is something that that Delbert Tibbs touched on when we had the meeting at my place one time. This country is such an amalgamation of people. African slaves, European immigrants, whether conquerors or otherwise, or indentured servants, and Native Americans, because they play a huge part in this whole American thing, whether or not we like it. They got the short end of the stick in terms of their culture has been relegated to street names these days and town names, because the powers that be put them on on reservations and call them autonomous, but they're not really.
Okay.
And they never have been. And all the treaties, all the agreements between these reservations and the American government have been broken by the American government. But having said that, their contribution to the American culture has been enormous. Farming was a Native American art before Europeans even got here. And they have taken it to...
And they couldn't have survived.
And they couldn't have survived without it. So when it comes to the mixture, genetically as well as culturally, of Africans, Native Americans, and Europeans, it's very difficult. When you say the question that the kid put to you at Newberry, what are you? You could have actually put the question back to him. What are you?
Yeah.
Because very few people in this country, maybe some recent immigrants can trace their ancestry to in some pure sense back to a country.
To a country. That's true.
But
not to a race.
But not to a
Nobody
race.
can do that.
No. Yeah, if you can do that, it's very rare.
Well, you know what? There is a little culture somewhere in the Indian Ocean, where these people there, and they have not mixed with anybody else.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's one. It's one little group. This is what they think, have never mixed with any other group.
That's interesting.
It is.
That's interesting because.
But they're the only ones, if they prove to be.
If it proves to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So that the second part of my question: how would you like this? I'm going to assume that the answer that you gave about your career as a teacher and how satisfying it has been is the answer to how you would like to see your career go forward from here, because that's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
How would you like to be remembered as an educator? I'm going to toss that out as a possible answer.
It's just good enough to be remembered, you know.
Uh-huh.
And my wife, she's also an educator.
Okay.
We were talking about it. She taught little second graders, and you know, all of our lives together. My students come up to me, you know, and say, you know, go to a restaurant, and, you know, all that. And now it's happening to her.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, because you taught these young kids. Now they're adults, you know.
And they're recognizing you and coming
yeah,
up and thanking you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, it is. It really is powerful. And it's enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That could be enough for anybody. Not everybody gets to enjoy it.
That's true. Man, but I've had it for a long time. I used to, you know, I had these kids that I taught in 7th and 8th grade, and in the 80s, they'd be coming up to me. They were grandparents.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
You know, and that's, you know, I'd go to Evergreen Park and kids being there. I got these kids, and my kids got. Wait a minute, you don't know me. Yeah. Then I started getting their grandkids in my class. So, you know, it's all, you know, I never thought that a teacher would be as rewarded as I have been.
Mm-hmm.
But if you stay in the community, you really do get rewarded. Like, several of these politicians are my former students.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any that you care to name?
No.
Okay.
Well, Shirley would. You know, actually, a lot of people know that Shirley would. I taught her when she was in 7th grade.
Shirley.
Well, I can't remember her last name. I think, what is her last name? Coleman.
Okay.
Taught her in 7th grade, 8th grade, college, and graduate school.
Whoa.
Yeah. But when she was in 8th grade, she was going with this little strange man, this little strange boy, who wound up to be, not only was he convicted of murder, but he was executed.
Is that right?
Yeah, they were both in the same room.
Do you remember his name?
No, I don't. But it's a matter of record. If you know, I could. But
I was just wondering if.
I'm thinking his name was Tyrone or something.
Don't worry about it. It's not.
But yeah, so teaching has been, you know, has been quite gratifying for me. And otherwise, maybe I'd be like Paris.
Frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people wonder why I'm not, you know, and I you know, 'cause you said it once. I think you were being facetious. He knows everybody. Well, basically.
Yes.
Basically, yeah. I can go just about anywhere. I'm gonna run into somebody.
Somebody that you know.
Yeah.
Or have taught.
Or have taught. Mostly who I've taught.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, and that's nice.
Yeah. All right. I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Okay.
This has been a rewarding interview for me because I learned a lot about you.